Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. Today we are doing another movie from the Studio Ghibli collection. We are doing the 1988 animated fantasy family movie, My Neighbor Totoro. Here is your trivia question for today. In the original movie poster, why is there only one girl that isn't either of the sisters from the film? The answer will be at the end of the video. In this film, we have two main characters, and they're both sisters. We have Setsuki and we have Mei. The film starts with the two sisters moving out to the country. They're moving into a new home, well, kind of an old one at this point, that may or may not be haunted, and it's in the middle of a giant lush forest. The girls and their father Tatsuo are trying to get this house all cleaned up and ready for when their mother is able to come visit. Their mother Yasuko is unfortunately very ill at the moment, but will hopefully be able to leave the hospital soon and go home with the rest of them. In the meantime, though, one of their neighbors, who likes being called Granny, is around to help with the cleanup and get everything ready. Now, while the girls are hanging out, they begin running into different spirits of the forest, which May has nicknamed them Totoros. So you have the small Totoro, the medium Totoro, and the large Totoro, which nowadays may also be known as King Totoro in most media. The girls and all the Totoros begin hanging out and having some small fun little adventures together. Oh, also, there's a cat bus, which is another spirit that ferries other spirits around the land. The concept for this movie is a bit autobiographical due to the fact that when Hayao Miyazaki was a child, he and his brothers had to deal with the fact that their mother was constantly in the hospital. Just like the mother in this movie, their mother was dealing with spinal tuberculosis. Now, what's interesting is My Neighbor Totoro actually had to be sold as a package deal. Miyazaki originally wanted to just release Grave of the Fireflies, but the producers felt that it was too sad and too depressing, so if they released the two together, it had a better chance of making it. Now, unfortunately, when the film first was put out, it actually didn't do all that well. It wasn't until they started producing merchandise that the film just skyrocketed. The film eventually did so well that Totoro became the mascot for Studio Ghibli. Totoro is still so popular to this day that if you notice, there's actually a stuffed animal version of him in Toy Story 3. Now, it's not really explained in the film, but the reason why the character is called Totoro is May mispronounces the word troll, which is actually pronounced as Tororu. And what's interesting is, if you notice at the end credits, the mother is reading a book to the two girls, and it's actually the Three Billy Goats Gruff, where the troll actually comes from. This film is not the only Studio Ghibli film to show the soot sprites. In fact, they show up again in Spirited Away. Here's something interesting you may not know. Troma, the movie company that normally does cheesy horror movies, was actually the first company to do an English dub for My Neighbor Totoro. Then Disney bought the rights, and then they did their own English dub, which is where you have Dakota and Elle Fanning playing the two sisters. This was also Elle Fanning's first time doing anything related to movies. Obviously, both actresses have had quite a successful career since then. So I thoroughly enjoy the movie My Neighbor Totoro. It's definitely, in my opinion, one of the best family movies that has ever been produced. So I'm absolutely going to give it a 5 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, in the original movie poster, why is there only one girl that isn't either of the sisters from the film? The reason for this is the original story was just one girl instead of sisters. Now, over time, they started to realize that the back half of the movie was a little bit more boring without having there being some sort of strife. So when they had two sisters, there could be that whole issue of one needing to find the other. But since the artwork was already made for the poster, they just kept it as it was. Now, what's interesting is the girl there was supposed to be about 7 years old, so kind of in between both the ages of Satsuki and Mei. And you can see that they kept the color palette from Satsuki and the pigtails or ponytails of Mei. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If you'd like to see a movie get a review, go ahead and mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.